So, good morning to everyone. Welcome back to another class. So, we're continuing on output devices. We started that last week. Remember, there are two types of output. There are soft copy output and there is hard copy output. And for soft copy, we have different types of display devices. We have the screen or the monitor. We have that on laptops, on phones, on tablets, and so on. We have smart boards. We have projectors, and so on. We looked at the types of displays. The types of displays are LCD and LED. Those are just two of the most common. I think I would have given a homework for you guys to check what are some other types of displays. We looked at what is a pixel, and then we looked at what is the features of a computer screen: size, the resolution, the color, the cursor, pointer, and scroller. That class would have basically covered soft copy devices, soft copy output, which is basically display and basically anything that is temporary. The computer monitor, audio, electrical signals, and so on. Those are soft copy. They're not permanent. They're temporary. So once you lose electricity, you don't have that output anymore. So today we're going to be looking at the hard copy output, which is permanent, and the most popular example, and some people would even say the only example of hard copy output, is something that you print. Like if, for instance, you print a report or you print a picture, those are examples of hard copy output. So the hard copy output device is going to be printing devices or printers. So we're going to be looking at the hard copy device of printers. We're going to be looking at the two types of printers. We have impact printer, we have non-impact printer. Then we're going to look at what is a 3D printer, what is a plotter, and finish off with the output device, which is audio devices. Alright, so our first paragraph, why did not my computer is a bit slow. Are you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Remember, once again, I'm in school, so if you didn't hear me clearly on anything, just let me know so that we can go over. Alright, so we're going to start with the first paragraph on the printing devices. And we're going to have, let's see, where did last class? Anybody remember who read last? I think I recorded that.
Sir, I think Raphael.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing also. So we can start with Samir.
Yes, sir.
Can you read the paragraph for us?
Alright. Printing devices. No matter how simple or complex the data processing operation is, the final result must be made available in a user-friendly form, and usually in the form of a permanent record. Printers are devices which output a hard copy of your work. The choice of printer depends on the speed, quality, and quantity you want, and the cost. Some printers also perform the functions of a scanner, a photocopier, and a fax machine. Two main category, Two main categories of printer are impact and non-impact.
Give me a second. Let me switch this chair. a little better. Um, so as we go through printers, where you guys are also going to learn about printers is not only about the different types, but as you learn about the different types, you can be able to choose what type of printer would be suitable for your use. So for example, if you want to print at home, what type of printer would be suitable? Or say for instance, your parents have a business. You could tell them what type of printer they can use for their business. So those are some of the aspects we'll be looking at today. So as mentioned already, your printer is basically what will give you that hard copy output. So there are two types of output, soft copy and hard copy, and printers give you hard copy output. Hard copy in that you can feel the output, you can hold the output. Now, what determines the differences between printers? Well, it's basically the speed at which they print, the quality at which they print, and the quantity of how much they print, and also the cost. So those are some of the differences between printers that those are some of the aspects you would look at when you're choosing a printer. You might say which one is faster than the other, or which one prints a better quality than the other, or even which one is cheaper than the other, because that's what most of us do today. Look at which one is the most cheapest. So these are some of the aspects you would look at when you are choosing a printer. Now some printers, they can be used as a scanner, it can be used as a photocopier, it can even be used as a fax machine. Anyone has a printer like that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, so those of you who do have a printer, it would usually be um, one of those kind of printers that has a scanner, a fax machine, a photocopy, and so on. Now, anybody know the name of that type of printer?
No, sir.
There's a name we would usually call it.
Sir, with like all everything.
You're close. I didn't hear what you say exactly.
Is
Go
it
back up.
is it the all-in-one printer?
Yes, the all-in-one printer. So the AIO, or all-in-one printer, that is what we usually call it. Multifunction printer or AIO printer, all-in-one. So you guys can take that down. We call them the multifunction printer, but mostly we call it the all-in-one printer, the AIO. So when you're getting a printer today, you would usually be buying a all-in-one printer. Unless it's very cheap, a very cheap printer, then it's only going to be a printer and not an all-in-one printer. Only those cheaper ones would be just a printer. But basically, most devices, most printers today, they come with all of those functionality: scanning, photocopying, faxing, and so on. Good. So those are some of the uses that we have of printers today. Now, when it comes to printers, there are basically two types of printers that you should remember. We have impact printer and we have non-impact printer. Those are the two types. One, impact printer, and two, non-impact printer. Now, remember I mentioned already, terms in IT actually refer to exactly, they give you an idea as to what the device or the information is about. So when you hear something is impacting or something is making an impact, what comes to mind?
Making a difference?
Making a difference, okay.
There's something clashing together.
Something clashing together. Good. That's the side of the definition I'm looking at. Something clashing together, or something touching, or something. When you hear impact, you may be some of you might be thinking of an accident. Maybe a car running into another car. It caused an impact, or you throw a ball against a window. It made an impact. So something touching something else. It's making contact. So that is what impact printers are. When they are printing, they are basically touching the paper. Whereas a non-impact printer will not touch the paper. So when they say impact, it means it's touching something, it's making contact with something, and that something is the paper. So the impact printer is going to make contact with the paper, touching the paper, whereas non-impact will not touch that paper. It's going to transfer the information via another way. So the first type of printer we're going to look at is the impact printer. And we're going to have Sarah, can you read for us?
Impact printers or inked ribbon like a typewriter. They are noisy and do not usually print acceptable graphics. However, they are useful for printing multiple copies using carbon paper and printing payroll or financial reports that require continuous sheets of paper perforated to tear into individual sheets if necessary. Impact printers are largely obsolete now. However, there are still some dot matrix printers in existence.
Good, very good. So when it comes to all of these printers, there's a lot of information you need to remember about them. Remember we learned earlier basically what is the speed, what is the quality, what is the quantity, what is the cost. Those are aspects of printers you need to remember. So for example, impact printers, they are noisy. Why would they be noisy? You guys should figure this out by now. Why would it be noisy? What did I say about impact printer? What is it doing?
Clashing together.
Clashing together. Clashing together with what?
The paper.
The paper. So if it's constantly hitting the paper, wouldn't it make noise?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Right. It will make noise. So that can help you to remember that impact printers are noisy because they're constantly hitting that paper in order to print the information. Any of you ever use carbon paper?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
It's that blue paper, carbon paper. It's that blue paper. When you write on it, well, basically you put 2 layers of pages, and when you write on one page, the carbon is going to get transferred to the other page. So you get a duplicate copy when you're actually only writing one time. So that's basically what impact printers do. They use carbon or inked ribbon, and when they strike that ribbon, the first line here at the top, when they strike that ribbon, that is how text appears on the paper. It strikes that paper. Let's see if we can get an example. Impact printer. Yes, this is an example. So notice the ribbon here. You guys see the ribbon?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. So notice the ribbon is here, and then this is called the print head. This part here that is basically looking like it's holding down the ribbon. That's the print head. What it's going to do is going to strike through that ribbon onto the page. and that is how text would appear onto the page. So it's striking through that ribbon. So the ribbon could either be carbon or it has ink. So if it has carbon, it can be used to create multiple copies. So like if you're going to print a receipt, that's how you guys ever went to those stores and when they're printing, you get multiple receipts at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, but I don't think it's an impact printer they're using, but that is the example. You get multiple copy of the document. Now, so what we learned so far that the printer is noisy. You don't get good quality. It's right here. You do not get good quality from the printer. It's used for multiple copies. And it's also used for payroll, it's used for financial records, because those you would normally keep duplicate copies. But today, they are mostly obsolete. Well, because persons, they don't like noise, that's the first thing. And they had good quality. So there's a bunch of reasons as to why it's now obsolete. But we still have an example of the impact printer called the dot matrix printer. And that is still, some persons could still be using that today. Sarika, could you read that paragraph for us?
Dot matrix printer. A dot matrix printer uses pins to print a pattern of dots on paper. The main advantage of using dot matrix printers is for printing multiple copies using carbon paper. The main disadvantage is relatively poor quality of printing, which can be read but cannot be used for reproduction or for business letters.
Good. Any of you ever saw a document like that? The letters look like if it's made up of dots.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think businesses,
Yes, sir.
right? Businesses would print using that document. So when you see a document like that, you know it is actually an impact printer that would have made that document. So it says here that it uses pins to print the pattern of dots. So if you're going to print a letter, it's going to use a series of dots to print that that word. So like what you're seeing on the screen here that I'm doing. That's how it would usually print. So imagine every time it has to make one letter, how many impact it has to make. Now the main advantage of using the dot matrix printer is for multiple copies because it's going to be straight in the paper. So you can be using carbon paper. So make that multiple copy. Now the disadvantage is poor quality. So the question now is, would you use this type of printer to print a picture of yourself?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Some of you don't even like printing it in the normal quality printer. Much less if you use this printer, how much you would have disliked that picture. So when it comes to dot matrix printer, when it comes to all of these printers, they have their uses. You won't use a dot matrix printer to print your pictures, to print your assignments, but basically areas where you don't need high quality documents, like for example, printing an invoice, printing a report, and so on, you don't need high quality printing. And in those cases, you're going to need duplicate copy. So the dot matrix printer is going to be the most applicable printer in that situation because it's going to give you that multiple copy and it's going to basically be a little more because the lower the quality, obviously you don't have to pay a lot of money to be printing high quality, using a lot of ink and so on. So when it comes to, like, for example, business letters, reports, assignments, pictures, and so on, it would not be appropriate to use. All right, so far we looked at hard copy our hard copy device, the printing device. We looked at what aspects of it we need to consider: the speed, the quality, the quantity, and so on. And we looked at the first type of printer, the impact printer. And the only example of the impact printer we're going to look at is the dot matrix printer. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, great. So what we're going to do now, we're going to move on to the other type of printer. That is the non-impact printer. And remember this one, it is not making any contact with the page. So let's see how it does that. Shane, can you read for us? That's the first paragraph here.
Sir, with the non-impact printers, sir. Just clarify.
Yes.
Non-impact printers. These printers do not involve actually striking the paper. Instead, ink spray or toner powder is used. The characters are then fixed on the paper by heating it, for example. Because the printing element is simple and has no moving parts, these printers are inexpensive to manufacture and print quickly and quietly.
Good. So our second category of printers is the non-impact printer. And as mentioned, it does not touch the paper. It does not strike the paper, like how the impact printer would have a pin constantly hitting that paper. So what the non-impact printers do is basically two uses, two operations they would have. They would either spray liquid ink, as the first one here, they would either spray liquid ink, or they would basically put powder, toner powder, onto the page. And how they stay onto the page is by heating that ink or that powder. And when it gets heated, it's like if basically you're baking on the characters onto the page. So you can say basically your printer is cooking every time. That's why you guys ever notice when you print, when you're printing, the page comes out hot,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
right? Because those characters would have been baked onto the paper. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of the non-impact printer? Well, because it is simple, it is inexpensive to make. That is why you can actually get a printer for like about 10,000, 8,000, 12,000 and so on. Because their elements, their parts, they're simple to create. So that's why we can get some very affordable printers. But as mentioned, when you go that low, sometimes you don't get the other functionalities like these scanning, the photocopying, and so on. Now the other advantage is that it prints quickly, well, quickly compared to the non-impact printer, and it prints quietly. Because remember, nothing is hitting the paper. The only sound you're gonna hear is maybe the page being pulled through the printer and the motors being used to pull the paper, and then the cartridge moving back and forth across the page. But you won't hear that like that hitting sound when it comes to the impact printer. Alright, so let's look at some examples of non-impact printer. We have three examples that we're going to look at. We have the inkjet printer, we have the laser printer, and we have the thermal printer. Those are three non-impact printers that we're going to look at. So our first non-impact printer is the inkjet printer. So these printers are basically the ones that you guys are going to buy. So as we go through them, you can determine Which one would be more suitable for your home? Which one would be more suitable for a business, for organization, for an office, and so on. So the first printer, the inkjet printer, we're gonna have Vanessa.
Inkjet printers. It is now possible to buy low-priced, good-quality printers that can print in both black and white or color. The quality of printer can nearly be as good as that of a laser printer, but inkjet printers are slower depending on what is to be printed. Speeds of 4 to 6 pages per minute can be achieved. Their cartridge need to be replaced more frequently than the toner cartridge of laser printers. Color inkjet printers are ideal for use at home, where small quantity output is required for greeting cards, photographs, and so or ordinary printer paper can be used.
Great. So these non-impact printers, compare them among each other. When we are talking about the different information, like the speed, the quality, the what else? The speed, quality, the cost, quantity, and so on. Compare it among the three examples of non-impact printer. So we should know that these inkjet printers, they print in black, they print in color. In the past, most of these printers would have been black and white, but today, almost all of them are colored also. So they're low priced. That's why most persons would buy those printers. And there's no shame in buying an inkjet printer because sometimes that is basically all you need to print. A low price printer is all you need to print your documents. So there's no shame in having an inkjet printer. Now they're low price, but they give us good quality. But sometimes the quality is not as good as the laser printer. Quality sometimes are not as good as the laser printer. The laser printer would usually give you a more higher quality. So the inkjet printer, it is low price, it has good quality, you can print in black and white and color, so that's 3 points there from the inkjet printer. Four, it is slower than the laser printer. The inkjet printer is slower than the laser printer. So the inkjet printer can get you 4 to 6 pages per minute. It all depends upon how much information is on the page. You guys ever notice when you're printing a lot of information on the page, it takes longer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So how much information you have on the page determines how long it's going to take to print. And especially if you try to print an image, you just wonder if that paper is going to take all day. So the amount of information on the page will determine how long it takes to print, basically. Now, so that's the fifth aspect there, 4 to 6 pages. Now, when it comes to the cartridge, if you're printing very frequently, how often do you guys change your cartridge? Every month? Every 2 weeks?
Every month, I think.
Every month?
Every year.
Every year? That means you don't do a lot of printing. True?
Kinda, sir.
Sir, every 2 months?
Every 2 months? Good. So, well, it would all depend upon how much printing you're doing. But the point is, these inkjet cartridges, they finish very quickly. You print a few pages, and within no time, the ink is finished. So you replace them more frequently than a laser cartridge, because a laser actually holds more toner powder or more ink inside of its cartridges. They're much more larger. So let's look at an example of an inkjet printer. So these are examples of the inkjet printer. And notice here, these are the cartridges. So we can look for an actual cartridge now. So inkjet cartridges, some of them are actually very small. These ones, they're very small. Look at their size inside the printer. Now, compare that now to a inkjet cartridge versus laser printer cartridge. Let's see if they give us side by side. Good, perfect. So notice the difference here between the two. On the right hand side, you have the inkjet cartridges. Look how much you need to actually compare to the toner cartridge in the laser printer. So this cartridge on the left is for a laser printer, whereas all of these cartridges on the right hand side is for a inkjet printer. So you can see the difference in the size and why you would actually be changing it so frequently. So that's the 6 point there. So where would you use the inkjet printer? Well, it's mostly for home use. Inkjet printers are mostly for small quantity output. If you're going to print an assignment or you're going to print a homework, every now and then you might print something, then an inkjet printer is suitable for you. Every month maybe you have 2 or 3 assignments that you need to print, then an inkjet printer is for you. But if you're going to be printing a lot of documents every month, then that's where the laser printer is going to come into play. So if now and then you're going to print greeting cards, now and then you're going to print some photos, you're going to do some the inkjet printer is going to be suitable for you. So, and the last point is that it uses ordinary paper. So unlike the impact printer, which may use the carbon paper, the inkjet printer is going to use the ordinary paper. Any regular paper, it can't print on. All right, any questions or comments before we move on?
No, sir.
No, what's so fast? All right, so we're going to look at the next non-impact printer, that is the laser printers. So let's see, that's going to be Taya. Can you read for us?
Laser printer produce attractive documents at a high resolution and are much faster than inkjets. They are used in many workplaces because they are quiet, print quickly, can be stocked with a large number of sheets of paper, and produce very high quality documents. The printout from most laser printers tend to be 300 to 1200 dots printed per inch DPI. Many lines are printed simultaneously, and speeds of 8 to 12 pages per minute can be attained. Color laser printers are also available. They are far more costly to buy than color inkjet printers, but produce higher quality images and are cheaper to run.
Good. So the aspects of the laser printer. One, they give you high quality documents. They print faster than the inkjet printer. So they give you high resolution documents. Remember, anytime you hear high resolution, we talked about that last week. The higher the resolution, the better the quality of whatever you're looking at. So, 2, it is quiet, it prints quickly and so on, and it gives you high quality documents. and you can actually stack them with large numbers of paper compared to the inkjet printer. Have any of you ever tried putting a lot of paper into your inkjet printer?
No, sir.
Um, let me see.
Yes, sir.
Uh, anything ever happened when you put a lot of paper into it?
It just does not fit into the cartilage or whatever you call it.
But it doesn't fit. But at any point in time, did it like try to pull more than one paper?
Yes, sir. And then sometimes it gets stuck.
Right, that's the issue you can have. When you put too much paper into an inkjet printer, it can pull more pages because of how many they are. So that's why inkjet printers, it's not wise to fold them up with paper because sometimes they can't basically differentiate between that huge pile of paper. So you would usually put a small amount so that it can use that amount. Whereas the laser printer, they are built for stocking large amounts of paper. So you can basically put an entire pack of paper into some laser printers and they will be able to easily print all of those pages. Now, have any of you ever seen this terminology? 300, 1200 DPI?
No, sir.
No? Well, it's as the name indicates, it's dots per inch. So it's basically in every inch, what is the quality in that area? So basically, the higher the dots per inch, the higher the quality also. So if you use 300 dots per inch, you're going to get a low quality. But if you go 1200, you are going to be getting a higher quality document. Now the speed is 8 to 12 pages, which is about 2 to 3 times faster than an inkjet printer, because an inkjet printer is 4 to 12. So a laser printer is basically 2 to 3 times faster than a inkjet. Now you can get color and black and white, just like the inkjet printer, but the color is more costly than the black and whites. The color is more costly on a laser printer than a inkjet printer. But nevertheless, the laser printer is going to give you that higher quality. It's always going to give you that higher quality. Just that the color, printing color on a laser is a little more expensive. But overall, laser printers are actually cheaper to run. Now, does anybody know the price difference between an inkjet printer and a laser printer? No one? Well, if you ever go into Star Computer or if you go into Quartz, must check them out. Check out their prices. You're gonna notice that inkjet printers you can get from some of them, they're as low as 10,000 and below, and some can be within 10 to 20,000 or 20 to 30,000. Obviously, the higher you go, the better the quality, more features, and so on. But when it comes to laser printers, they're going to be a little more expensive. They're going to be maybe starting from about 20,000 going up, 20, 30, 40, 50, somewhere in the hundreds of thousands, because they're those larger laser printers. So notice we have so the inkjet printers are relatively cheaper and the laser printers are more expensive. But notice we have the phrase here that the laser printer is cheaper to run. How is that possible? How can a laser printer be more expensive but yet it is cheaper to run? Anybody has an idea?
Well, because you don't have to buy as much ink cartridges.
Exactly. That is exactly correct. You don't have to buy as much ink cartridges as an inkjet printer. If you were to buy, say you buy an inkjet and you buy a laser printer, and you print the same image, you print the same documents on both printer, you are going to be spending more money on cartridges for the inkjet printer than the laser printer. You might go through about 10 to 20 cartridges on the inkjet printer, and you might not even reach halfway of the laser printer cartridge. So that is how it's cheaper to run. So persons today, they run for the price of a laser printer because the price is high, but long term it's going to be more cheaper to run because the cartridge lasts a little longer than a using the inkjet cartridges. But once again, nothing's wrong with having an inkjet printer because if that is all you need, that is all you need to print those few documents. But knowing the difference can be beneficial to you. Knowing when it is appropriate to have an inkjet printer and when it is appropriate to have a laser printer. So if you're going to be printing not so much documents every month, say you're printing only like about 4 to 5 times every week or 4 to 5 times every 2 weeks, then a laser inkjet printer is basically all you need. But if you're going to be printing every week, maybe 10, 20 documents every week, then you might want to consider a laser printer, which can be more affordable for that large quantity printed. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir.
All right, so our last non-impact printer is a thermal printer. So let's have Trinity. Can you read that for us?
Thermal printers uses on chemical treated paper on character. Many automatic banking machines, ATM receipts, debit or credit card slips, and even some ultrasound using thermal printers. These printers are quiet and more recent ones print quickly. However, the paper is expensive and the print eventually fades if exposed to light or heat.
Good. Have you guys ever seen a document that fades over time?
Yes, sir.
What would that be? What's an example?
Sir, like the bank receipts?
Yeah. But more common example. You guys go there, but I guess you guys don't keep the bill. But if you ever keep, next time you go to DQ or you go to churches or you go to Popeyes, try to keep the bill. And you will notice it fades over time.
Yes, sir.
Right. That there is an example of a thermal printer being used. So yes, the banking receipt as mentioned as an example also. So how does the thermal printer function? Actually, I didn't show you guys an example of the laser printer. So these are examples of the laser printer. So these are smaller ones, but there are some larger ones. Notice this image here is almost half of our size, 3/4 of our size. These are all laser printers. These are for professional uses. Organizations, businesses, they are going to be using it. Oh, so have you guys ever went into a photocopy shop or a printing shop and noticed those large printers?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Those are all
Yes, sir.
laser printers, right? Those are all laser printers that you saw in that store. So that's why they're using laser printers, because they have to print a lot of documents. They have to print a lot of work. All right. So the thermal printer How it functions is that it uses heat on this chemically treated paper. So firstly, it needs a special type of paper, a paper that has a special chemical on it, so that when heat basically catches the paper, it will form characters onto the paper. So the heat is going to be in the form of patterns that would form the characters. So as mentioned already, the uses is going to be used to receipts, debit cards, credit cards, ultrasound images, and so on. So you guys can try next time to save a bill. Yes, the copy shop in school has one also, and even in the office. If you guys ever come in the office, you can notice one in the office. Or did it move? Yeah, the office doesn't have one anymore. But the photocopy shop in school, they had one also. Yes, so no, we're talking about the laser printer, right? Right, Tanasi? Tanasa? Yeah, that would be the laser printer. The school has one. But for the thermal printer, that's going to be more for businesses and so on. Now, what's the aspects of the thermal printer? Well, it is quiet because there's nothing hitting the paper. So it's just heat being transferred, and it's going to be printing quickly. But the paper is expensive because, as mentioned, you need that chemically treated paper in order to basically transfer those characters. So you can't use any and all paper. Like how the laser and the inkjet, you can use regular paper. But the disadvantage is that it eventually fades. Whatever is printed on the paper eventually fades. All right. Any questions on the non-impact printers before we move on?
No, sir.
All right, so we have two more printers to look at. We have the 3D printer. Have you guys ever heard of the 3D printer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys know what it do?
Sir,
Go ahead, Chance. Or does it seems you guys have the idea. So it basically prints something realistic. It prints a model of something. Alright, so let's read the paragraph. That's going to be Toleram. Toleram. We don't have Toleram. Tulsiram.
3D printers. 3-dimensional or 3D printers are similar to inkjet printers, but instead of 3D models created layer by layer from the bottom upward,
It's created over many hours as so each layer is printed on top of another.
however, instead of using ink as the 3D printer uses melted plastic that sticks each layer to the previous one.
Good. So if you notice, these printers, this 3D printer, it doesn't really fall under these categories, impact printer, non-impact, because of how it functions. Remember, the non-impact printer is basically not going to make contact with the page, but the 3D printer is not printing on a page, but it's still making contact with what it is printing. So it's like a gray area that doesn't really fall under those categories. So what is a 3D printer? Well, it is used to create a 3D model of something. So it creates it layer by layer. So 3D printer. So it can basically be used to print anything. Statue, a character. Some persons used it to build things. So build tables, to build furniture, to make fittings and so on. It can basically be used to make models. So a model of a house, a model of an engine. Those are all uses of the 3D printer. It can be used to print a model of almost anything once it can be designed using a 3D printer. Now, how long does it take to print? Well, it can take hours, sometimes days, depending on what you are printing. Because remember, it's printing in layers. So it has to print that bottom layer, maybe wait for it to get hard, then print another layer, wait for that to get hard again, and then doing that way all the time. Remember, it is using melted plastic. It's not using ink. So you have to melt that plastic, make it soft, be able to make the model one layer at a time, and then wait for that to get hard so that it can continue printing and have the 3D model. Alright, we then look at the image of the thermal printer. So a thermal printer, what does that one look like? So this is an example of a thermal printer. I'm sure you guys saw examples of these printer when you go in DQ and Popeyes and so on, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, so they would be using those thermal printers. Good, so that's it for 3D printer. The next type of printer is the plotter. All right, let's go through that quickly because we're going to run out of time. Plotter. So let's have, I guess we're starting back from the top. Aquila. Can you read plotter? Aquila? You don't have Aquila? You're unmuted, but we didn't hear anything.
Oh, speak on.
Alright, let's go to Alian.
Plotters, car designers, architects, and engineers who wish to print accurate charts, diagrams, and 3D drawings. Output not to a lazy printer but to a plotter. A plotter uses colored pens or toner to draw an image on paper. The paper is handled in different ways depending on the type of plotter. Flatbed platters hold the paper still while the pens move. Drum plotters roll the paper over a cylinder, while pinch roller plotters are a mixture of the two. The advantage of a drum plotter is that it can produce very large drawings.
Good. So have you guys ever wondered how they print all of those large images? Any of you ever wondered that? Those large posters, large billboards and so on? Nobody ever wondered that?
Yes, sir.
Well, good. They use plotters in order to print those images, in order to print those documents. So plotters are used to print charts, they're used to print diagrams, they're used to print 3D drawings and so on. So basically any large image, any large poster, you would use a plotter to do that. Now a plotter can use colored pens or it can use toner, depending on the type of plotter, to make the image. We have three types of plotters that you should remember. We have the flatbed platter. I don't think it's an image. So this is an image of a 3D printer. But the flatbed platter is basically going to be looking like a bed, a flat surface, and then the part that has the colored pens inside of it is going to move across the paper. in order to print onto the document, onto the page. So that is the flatbed plotter. So it's basically using a flatbed in order to print. The drum roller plotter is basically going to be using a drum or a cylinder. So the paper is actually going to be rolled across this drum in order to print onto that paper there, onto the document. And the pinch roller plotter is a combination of the two. It's a combination of the flatbed and it's a combination of the drum plotter. And the advantage of the drum plotter is that that is what we use for very large drawings. Because we can basically roll up the paper, it can basically be able to print on very large surfaces. So that's what the drum plotter is used for. Alright, let's look at the last device, the audio device, and then we're gonna close off here. Asifa, can you read that for us?
Audio devices.
Yes.
Most computers sold to homes and schools include a sound card. This allows both recording input and playback output of sound. Microphones record sound, while loudspeakers can play sound to a group of people. However, headphones are more popular for users who wish to listen to the sound without disturbing anyone around them. These devices are small speakers that need to be placed close to one or both ears. Earphones or earbuds are very small headphones that fit inside the ear. The headset is a set of headphones which has a microphone attached to allow you to speak and listen at the same time. Sound may also be
Yes, go ahead.
Sound may also be output from a digital file or as music from a CD. Some software applications will allow word processed text to be read back to the user. This can be very important to young children or visually impaired.
Good. So, audio devices. Remember, we're still looking at output devices. And audio is going to be a soft copy output. It's going to be a temporary output. So, how do we get sound? Well, you guys know you get sound through a speaker. And also your microphone can be used to input that sound. So your microphone inputs sound or inputs audio, and your speaker outputs the audio. And those are all examples of soft copy output. Now there's a few terms here that you guys should remember. Headphones are basically the larger when we talk about headphones, they're the larger ones that go over your ears. These are headphones. Once they're going over your ears, those are headphones. Now we have earphones, which are similar to the headphones, but as the name indicates, it is going to go into the ear. So notice these are smaller. So you have to remember the difference between the two of them, because sometimes we call earphones headphones, which we can, but the correct name is going to be an earphone, or we can say an earbud. So we have headphone, which is the larger one. We have earphone, which goes into the ear or the earbud. And we have a headset. A headset is basically a headphone, but it has a microphone attached. So that's what persons would usually use when they're communicating or playing games or streaming and so on. So these are an example of headsets. A headphone with a microphone attached. All right, so later on, these questions here, they're going to be on your classroom as another Google form for you to complete as another coursework. So in revision of this chapter, please remember there are two types of outputs. There's soft copy output and then there's hard copy. Our examples of soft copy is your display, there's audio, there's electrical signals, and so on. The example of hard copy is going to be when you are printing. Alright, so if you guys don't have any questions on anything we looked at today, we're going to end here for today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, bye, sir.